Thorsson's heart longed to return to his home in East Agder. He was no longer a young man, and the many wounds he had suffered gave him considerable pain. He wished to give up the life of raiding and take his ease at home, but the gods willed otherwise. And though Thorgrim did not know it, there was little peace to be had in East Agder, or all of Vik in those days. That part of Norway was ruled by a king named Halfdan Gudrud's son, who was known as Halfdan the Black. Though Halfdan had ruled for a full 25 years, and had seen his kingdom and his wealth grow threefold in that time, he was a greedy and ambitious man, and wished to bring even more of the country under his rule. The farm that Thorgrim had left behind continued to prosper under Odd's direction, but Halfdan wished to have the farm for his own, so he decreed that Thorgrim owed taxes and tribute that had not been paid, and said that Thorgrim must surely be dead, as he had been gone so long from that country. For those reasons, Halfdan declared he would take Thorgrim's farm for his own. Odd, however, did not believe that his father was dead, and he knew that the taxes and tributes had been paid to King Halfdan, and so he would not allow Halfdan to take Thorgrim's farm unjustly. Odd's neighbours likewise did not wish to see the king take a man's land with no reason, and they joined Odd in his fight against Halfdan. When Odd was captured by the king and beaten almost to death, his neighbours contrived to free him and secret him away, which made Halfdan very angry, and made him vow vengeance on all of them. None of this was known to Thorgrim Night Wolf, who was then still in Englerland at a place called Hampton, where he and his men had built a longport. There he had fought with the king in that part of the country, which was called Wessex, and Thorgrim had taken many captives for himself. Thorgrim had demanded ransom for the captives, which the king agreed to pay, and Thorgrim was determined, more than ever, that once the ransom was paid, he would sail to his home in Norway, and allow nothing to stop him. Here is what happened. Chapter 1. Now answer me, much wise, this that I ask, and fain would learn from thy lips. Who here doth rule, and hold in power, the wealth and wondrous halls? Dayspring and Menglu, the poetic Edda. The sky was thick with cloud, and the rain was coming down in sheets. It buffeted the squalid fishing village, now a longport, as well as the larger town of Hampton across the water, and all of the south coast of Englerland, it seemed. Maybe the entire world as far as anyone could tell. The open ground between the hovels closest to the river and the river itself, which was damp earth in the best of times, was a field of mud now, interspersed with great puddles that danced and rippled in the downpour. Thorgrim Night Wolf stood under the edge of the tent, a massive affair made from one of the ship's sails spread over a stout frame. He stood just back from the stream of water coming off the bolt rope and looked out over the soaked ground. Good day to take a man's head off. This village where they had come ashore was on the south side of a wide river the English called the River Thurston, or so they had been told by Geldwin, the Saxon fisherman they had taken as their pilot. It was a sorry place. A cluster of a few dozen wattle and door-built thatched huts, a couple of wooden docks extending out from the shore, a church with a stunted square tower. There were fishing boats pulled up on the banks, and nets spread out on the shore to dry, Thorgrim guessed, though how anything was supposed to dry in that miserable country he could not imagine. The Northmen had been a few weeks at this place, landing here after doing battle with an English fleet that had surprised them on the river. Thorgrim and his men reckoned it a victory of sorts, seeing that the English had retreated, but the Northmen had paid a heavy blood price for that dubious honour. They tied their ships to the docks and pulled them up on the muddy banks, putting the water between them and the Wessex army to the north. They found the village deserted, which was hardly a surprise. When a fleet of longships appeared off an undefended town, the folk rarely stayed to welcome the newcomers. Thorgrim stared for a moment at the mud and the growing puddles, then sighed, pulled his hood over his head and stepped out into the rain. The hood and the cloak he wore over his mail shirt